hope most people don't have a preconceived sort of idea of what I might be like. For everybody I'm talking about now is that if you help somebody else in any small way, it feels good to help other people. It feels good to give stuff back. Some of my most successful friends have had some spectacular screw-ups in the fact that I say yes to quite a lot of stuff and then afterwards think, okay, can I actually do that?
It's too late, you're sat here.
Yeah, I know, exactly. It's just gone insane suddenly. Absolutely mad. It's pretty much, I have to say, which I had to go to London a couple of times in lockdown for work, obviously, not to party or anything. But really only a couple of times. And so I drove straight in to Mayfair and parked literally outside Purdey. And it was the eeriest thing, because Mayfair, there was literally nobody. No. I mean, nobody at all. It was quite bizarre.
It almost doesn't work, does it? Every time you go into London, you think, traffic, parking, lorries, buses.
But actually, when it was empty, it felt really sad.
Yeah.
Because, it was beautiful, obviously, and all the buildings were beautiful and what have you, but it had lost its soul because there were no people. No. And the people who drive you mad, normally, you shout at, get out of the way, I'm late for a meeting or whatever. But... it was really weird, but it's definitely back now, because I've been a few times since where I've just said, how has this even happened so quickly? And it was so quiet, and also with the planes, Yeah. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I mean, we suddenly went from having planes that came over us a lot to nothing.
Yeah.
And that was, again, quite weird at the beginning, and then amazing.
Just lots of private jets.
Yeah. I don't know. There probably were, actually. I'm sure there were. But
we've got a client of ours who comes in who charters, and he said, I've never been busier. But don't tell anyone.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, I did read in the paper the other day that some chap, his plane had been logged and it had done 90 flights in the last year, and you just think, excellent, well, we've all been sitting at home faintly appalled.
The trouble is, though, the world is in such a position now that it just has to keep moving. Things have to keep moving.
No, I know. And also, realistically, people have had to travel for work and things like that. I mean, it hasn't completely stopped. I mean, it's just... the sort of tourism side, I suppose. People have been travelling for work, so otherwise everything really would stop just like that.
Did you continue writing through?
I did.
Did you?
I did. Actually, do you know what? It was a real blessing because a lot of the things that I do, so going out and interviewing people, going to visit places, going to look at things that I'm researching for a piece, at style talks, that kind of thing, that just stopped overnight. And
how's it feel being interviewed, by the way?
Quite weird, can I just say? Quite weird. And if I suddenly turn the tables and
I shall quickly dive back to you.
I shall suddenly start grilling you. So, Simon. No, I was very lucky because writing kept me sane. It never stopped because obviously we needed content all the way through. And again, that was very, very tricky because, with a magazine like Tatler, you're covering events. So much of what you cover is, parties, weddings, wonderful things. It's a
magazine about sociable.
Exactly, and that stopped, and we had to get very inventive. And actually, we went back and looked at a lot of the archives, and we all had to go, crap, okay, what are we going to do next?
Did it create any sort of long-term minor changes to format, having that sort of time to stop and then looking and think, well, actually, this is something we could continue on even.
I think so. I think that's kind of the same with everything
I think,
for everyone. I think there will be some reevaluate. And I mean, look, we were all so busy that it was nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, but
Yeah.
I was chasing my tail and juggling everything.
Yeah.
And probably dropping balls all over the place.
Yeah.
Trying to do 3 different sort of jobs and, have a child still at school,
Yes.
do school runs. And it's a big, it was kind of crazy. And actually, when it all stopped, you suddenly thought, oh my goodness, this had got kind of a bit out of control, and we were just rushing and running, and so that side of it was quite interesting. I mean, I was always dropping a child at school, racing to London, fitting in my meetings, and then always felt that time pressure, racing back to pick somebody up from school. And
do you think, though, it's really interesting, because I was talking to one of our sort of previous guests, and we got onto this, that it almost seems like to feel not successful, but to feel sort of correct, to feel like you're sort of playing the game.
Yes.
One needs to be literally doing something all the time,
Yeah.
And almost there's a sense of guilt if you have a day off, or maybe not on a Sunday, but taking a day off in the week, and we think, well, hold on a minute, surely I should be emailing or phoning someone, and we've got into this mad sort of trap.
No, a literally psychotic trap of
Yeah.
that. And I mean, you'd find yourself sort of having busy offs with people. They'd ring you and
Busy
they'd
off,
go,
I like that.
and they would go, oh my God, I'm so busy, you literally couldn't make it up. I've worked all weekend and I've got to fly here and've got to do this and I'm going to New York and then I'm back from New York and then I'm this. And then you'd have to sort of go, right, well, I'm... It was like a sort of competitive, who can be the busiest person in the world. And I'm kind of glad that stopped. But it also wasn't a lie. No. People really were that busy and are. And I mean, lots of people have been really busy through the whole pandemic as well. I mean, I had the slight fantasy that I would step back, which I found really difficult at first, because I did have that whole weird thing of why aren't I... and I looked at my diary, I would open my diary and want to weep, because there were these endless things that had been set up months in advance that I was just going, I was just putting lines through it.
Yes.
And that was really sad. And then I had this fantasy that I would become this rather wonderful person who sort of learnt things and sort of...
you are fairly wonderful. We'll allow you that. Yeah.
But I've really found out that I'm actually not. And so I did manage to do a few things, but I didn't do anything majorly wonderful, like learn to speak a new language or sort of what have you. What did I do? I did a meditation course that was really cool, actually, which I absolutely loved. And I did, I've always been really into Pilates and yoga, so I did lots of that, which was nice and quite calming. Because, I mean, I love tennis and things like that, and you weren't even allowed to do that. So, we did a lot of walking and Pilates and tennis, and, I did various things and worked if I could. And, I'm very lucky with the team at Tatler. I work very closely with someone called Sasha Forbes, who's the associate editor. Yes. And she and I get on extremely well. And I think we just sort of... she definitely helped me get through it. And I hope... We got slightly hysterical on most days, and we'd, Well,
there's an irony, isn't there, that, as we've just said, everybody, you bump into people, and the sort of generic response, after saying, hey, how you doing? Oh, so, just really busy. Yeah, just really busy. Really? Yeah, we're there, and we're there. Everybody seems to have this answer. But ironically, I noticed that a lot of people struggled when they had to stop. And I sort of thought to myself, people don't actually, even though we're always crying out, we're so busy. It'd be really nice to have a break or do this. When we don't. I know it was forced, so I know it's not a true representation of of time off, because you're restricted. You can't go out and see friends, eat, drink, so on and so forth. But a lot of people don't know how to stop.
I definitely am really bad at relaxing, and I found that out.
Yeah.
Because, especially when you've got kids and stuff, you're so really busy in the week, you're working, you're dealing with them, and then weekends are quite full on seeing friends and their friends and taking them to parties and having their friends for sleepovers or having a dinner party or whatever. And I suddenly realised that I am not a natural chiller.
No.
At all.
No.
I almost sort of go deranged if I'm not busy.
But in layman's terms, you're a working mother, aren't you?
Yeah, but I also, yes. I mean, yes.
Day
and
jobs and...
Yeah, all of that. But actually, me as a person, I like being busy, and I like, being quite creative about things.
Yes.
And so that I found quite hard. And then just when lockdown, of course, was sort of ending, I had actually discovered that I might be quite good at chilling, actually. And then it was like, then my diary just sort of went gruff like this.
Does a bottle of rosé aid that relaxation?
Occasionally. Do you know, very occasionally, Simon, it does. Not so much in the week, but certainly at weekends, I think.
Weekend starts on a Thursday, yeah?
Sadly not for me, but it would. I definitely, if it could, that would be really good.
So how did because I think I'm right in saying you're contributing editor to Tatler, which is a fabulous position. I mean, how did that come about?
Well, like everything that ever happens in my life, it was just rather bizarre and random and lovely and a wonderful surprise. So Sash Forbes, the lady I said about earlier, she had been at Vogue, I think, for about 20 years. And she left and she got given the position of associate editor at Tatler by Richard Dennon, who is the new editor. And Sash rang me up and just said, "You must come and meet Richard. He's so fabulous and you'll love him." And so she organised a lunch, and actually we met up in the Cotswolds because we were up there and she lives up there.
Yeah.
And we went to Dalesford and I met Richard and Sash, and there were a few of us. And we had a really great time and a really nice lunch, and we got on really well. And then, I can't really remember exactly how it went, but it was kind of bizarre, as in, I think it was really just a phone call with between Sash and I, and she just said, "Richard would quite like you to write something about shooting. Would that be all right?" And so I said, "Gosh, that sounds fabulous. I'll give it a go." And I am slightly weird in the fact that I say yes to quite a lot of stuff and then afterwards think, okay, can I actually do that?
It's too late, you're sat here.
Yeah, I know, exactly. I know. It did run through my mind. Have I made a horrid mistake?
I hope you can see now that you haven't.
No, I haven't. No, it's very nice to be here. Yeah. But yeah, so that's how it happened. And then I suddenly thought, gosh, can I actually write about shooting? Can I actually write something, interesting enough? And
had you done any writing prior to that?
Not really. No. I mean, I really hadn't.
No.
And so really what I said to them was, okay, I tell you what, I will write you 3 pieces, and if they're completely crap, we'll just say, well, that was sort of fun little exercise, and that's it. So we sort of agreed that. And so I thought, and I said, did someone give you a title, or, do you make your own title? She said, and it was very relaxed. I mean, I just made my own titles up. I mean, I still do to this day. I mean, sometimes they'll say, can we have something on, sort of what to pack to go or what to wear, grouse shooting or whatever. But most of the time, I am literally driving in my car and I go, God, I wonder if people know about that.
Yeah.
I think people would be really interested to know about that. And if I didn't know that, and then also I find out stuff all the time. I mean, there are people who teach me stuff all the time, and I'll have a telephone conversation with someone who does a job that I mean, a bit like you, I don't do what you do. So therefore it's really interesting to me.
Yes.
And I want to know more about it.
Yes.
And I think because I'm quite my children probably say nosy. I prefer curious because I'm quite.
That's more polite.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm quite. I've always been quite curious about people and what they do and why they do it and why they enjoy what they do, and then that becomes a whole story You know, that's a whole story about someone. And if somebody does something they love, that they enjoy, that they're good at, then there's the whole passion behind that. And then it just, I don't know, it just becomes a story. And I've always loved stories. I've always loved reading stories, writing stories. And, you know, thankfully, it's worked. So I did that. I wrote for about a year.
Yes.
And then I was away reviewing a hotel called Limewood. So we all write for various parts of the magazine. Yeah. So be it the Good Spark.
I was going to say, just to cut in there briefly, fabulous to be asked to write, and you come in at, you know, at sort of a high level there as a, you know, contributor editor, which is.
Well, I didn't start as that. Right, okay, so that's what I was about to say. So I started. Literally as a writer.
Okay.
And we agreed that if the pieces were popular and they got good feedback, then I would carry on. And if
clearly they were.
And if they weren't popular, then I would go and slide back under my rock, sob quietly. But luckily and thankfully, they were popular and people liked them, and we got good feedback. And I think you know, I don't know whether it was just a fresh eye to it, you know, and I think sometimes, I don't even know if they certainly didn't have a shooting editor or anything like that, so they hadn't really written that much about it before.
No.
And so I think it was fresh for me, so therefore I hope that came across.
Yes.
And so it was almost like we were on a journey together.
I would say it did come across, and it is coming across, and it continues to come across.
But that's what I like. I like taking, I like going on a journey, and I like taking people with me.
Yes.
I think that's part of life's great.
Oh no, it's wonderful
joy.
And I think everybody's got a story.
Yeah,
you know, whether we feel it's applicable for everybody else to listen to.
And I've also been so amazed how incredibly generous people are if you ask them about what they do.
Yes.
And also, I mean, you know, I had to ask some sort of incredibly sort of senior and important men about things that I just didn't know.
Men or people, Annika?
Well, people. I mean, you know, people. But,
being very PC.
But yes, well, look, people. But I mean, quite often, let's be realistic, in the shooting industry, a lot of very senior men are usually men. I've even just said it badly again now. You know, it's so entrenched.
Male-dominated, yes.
It is quite male-dominated.
Yeah.
And...
although
I will tell you about Somewhere Fabulous that has a lady running it. I want to tell you about this place.
Well, we want to talk about that.
But no, I was constantly amazed how, and I still am to this day, how wonderfully generous people are. So if you ring someone up and say, for example, I write a piece every year for Tatler called The Chicest Wheels for Tate Shooting, the most ridiculous title that came to me as I was driving along, and it has stuck. And every time we try and change it to something more grown up, sort of somebody wants it back. And anyway, it's
good.
It is the dream job, because for me, anyway, because I'm such a petrol head.
Yes.
And so I get to try, I can choose... I made this whole thing up, again, in some crazy moment. I said, well, you know, I'd like to take 4 seriously amazing cars that are new to the market and take them out and road test them.
And what did you take?
Well, the first time I think I took the Bentley Bentayga.
Yeah.
And then I took, what else did I take? I took a hybrid Range Rover. I took the Lamborghini Urus. When I thought of that one, I literally got hysterical because I thought, are you even going to be able to fucking drive this car? Because it is terrifying.
I think they drive themselves now, don't they?
I think well, do you know what? It was amazing. And then I thought, God, will it actually be really frightening? And then you get the other bit of fear, which is, oh my goodness, it's sort of £250,000. What if I drive it into a hedge? I'm going to have to ring the man who will hate me forever, and everyone will be very cross with me. Anyway, touch wood. So far, I haven't dinged. I don't even want to say it because it's going to happen now, isn't it?
Don't jinx it. What was the 4th car? So
that
Lamborghini
time,
Range Rover.
what have I done? A Maserati Levante.
Yeah.
I've done the Bentley. Oh God, I've done so many now because it's
big
about
question.
3.
Which one stood out?
Which one would I buy
Yes.
if I could?
Yes.
Gosh, I'm quite a Range Rover person
same.
because I've owned them myself and they're just bloody good.
Yeah.
But if money was no object, I mean, for insanity, I have to say that Lamborghini Urus was brilliant. And I took it out on the wettest day and I could see all the gamekeepers sort of looking, thinking, oh my God, that girl's going to get that stuck. It's going to be an absolute disaster. And in my head, I was thinking, you are the biggest idiot. You have brought this all the way up to Lincolnshire in biblical rains. You have got to go through some quite narrow gates. How is this going to work? I mean, and when I say that sort of even gators were losing their back end.
Really?
It was
wow.
bad.
Oh, right.
And
so we're going into tractor territory.
Yeah.
Now, really,
and I thought, I was just saying this is going to be hilarious because, of course, I'm going to look like this sort of complete sort of lunatic that's brought this terribly, ridiculously swizzy car on this shoot, and then it's going to get stuck, and then I'm going to have to get a tractor. Everyone's going to laugh. I'm going to be massively ashamed. The whole thing has the potential to go really wrong. Anyway, thankfully, in these biblical rains, I sort of looked at this car and I just was like, please don't let me down. Please don't let me down. And Range Rovers got stuck. I'm not making this up.
No.
Range Rovers got stuck. And the Urus kept roaring through. The most frightening bit was that we did slide through gates.
Yes.
And I did think I was going to ding the sides. If you're listening to this ever, Lamborghini, I'm so sorry. It didn't happen. It nearly did, but it didn't. So that was good. And had you known where I'd taken it, you would have gone skits.
Proper field test.
Yeah, proper field test.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there were quite a lot of young people on that shoot, and we all got very hysterical because it had the most amazing stereo, and suddenly sort of we were playing rap in biblical rains in the middle of nowhere, trying not to get stuck. And
Sounds like anarchy.
I got terrible wheel spin. I mean, the whole thing was, we were all covered in mud, but the whole thing was brilliant fun, actually.
Sounds incredible.
Really brilliant fun. But
I just touching back to when I tongue-in-cheek their comment about successful men versus successful people. Have you sort of experienced this sort of glass ceiling effect, sort of as a lady wanting to sort of grow and sort of develop your professions and skills and the things you do? Have you encountered that sort of resistance in what is otherwise sometimes a male-dominated arena?
I mean, I think I've been very lucky in the fact that not much, but also because of what I do. On one side of what I do is quite female heavy. I mean, magazines are there are lots of women in that world.
But I can imagine that's still a very competitive world.
Very competitive.
Because it's fashion-y,
it's very competitive, but
I'm
it's
going to say a bit catty, for want of a better term.
Do you know, actually, weirdly, I would almost say not, because actually it's very supportive.
Good, that's uplifting.
And that's something that people might be surprised about. And I know you sort of read and they sort of make it look like, sort of Devil Wears Prada situation.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there are places where it is like that. I mean, I have never encountered that, thankfully. No. I've only ever encountered incredibly, in fact, above and beyond supportive people. And because when I was younger, I think it's really important to have people that are older than you that you look up to, that are at that point where you think, gosh, when you're like sort of in your late or mid-20s and you look at someone of 50 who is doing the job that ultimately you would really, really love. And if that person is nice and encouraging and wonderful to you, that makes such a difference. Well, it makes such a difference.
An old girlfriend of mine who sadly passed away, a girl called Annabelle Tolman, and she was a stylist, and she ended up sort of living in New York and sort of honing her craft and building her brand, I suppose, for want of a better term. And I remember her saying, actually, well, it's not an issue because there's lots of ladies. Most of them are good, but actually all the blokes are gay anyway, so we all go and party and just swing around together. You
get a lot of that in fashion. You do get a lot of that in fashion, and they are the best as well. I mean, absolutely bloody hilarious.
Yeah.
So yes, no, I really haven't. And now, weirdly, which is a really sort of terrifying thing to say, is that at Tatler, I think I think Sasha and I are about the oldest.
Really?
There. I mean, we're older than Richard, who's the editor.
Wow.
And the team at Tatler are very young. I mean, really young, as in the same age as our kids.
Yes.
But they are amazing. I mean, they are seriously amazing. And they were so great through the pandemic. There's a particular girl at Tatler that so I write my stuff, and then I send it through, and then she has a look at it. She's the one that makes it beautiful, so adds the pictures and sort of makes it look lovely.
The aesthetic.
Yes.
Creator.
And she's, I think she is about the same age as our oldest daughter. And she's just fantastic and lovely and so good at her job and so efficient and so helpful. And so I'm now in that reverse position. I remember sort of how lovely it was when somebody older was nice to me in that stage.
Yes.
And now, you suddenly think, oh my God, I'm now the old woman in the room. Help! How did that happen?
Well, I think and so there's a respect as well,
but
for someone who's more experienced and
but
worldly.
also, they're so great because they bring such fantastic freshness.
Yes.
I mean, look, if it was just a bunch of 50-year-olds ranting, it would be very samey.
But if it was a load of kids, it would
and
be...
equally, if it was a load of kids, it would be a bit out of control.
There's a lovely synergy.
But that's what's so great, is that you get their amazing energy and their amazing ideas, and then hopefully the little bit of experience and can kind of not calm it. Calm it's the wrong word, but
pacify.
Well, can just sort of make it
temper.
Slightly more, together, so that it doesn't get completely out of control. But it's great because you're both getting something wonderful out of it.
Yes.
I mean, listening to, I'm surrounded by teenagers at home anyway, so it's quite grounding, shall we say.
Tiring.
She's saying that in a nice way. Did you see the smile? It's quite grounding, because, you can kind of come in from an amazing day where you've done something completely fabulous for work, and someone will always say something quite excellent, like, why is there no food in the fridge? Or, just like, what's for supper?
I mean, you don't have food in the fridge.
No,
That's
what's for supper? Or, kind of like, who's eaten all the crisps? Or something sort of really tedious and dull.
I think there's many households.
Yeah, but they're just, kids are great at kind of saying it how it is. And they're sometimes sort of, hideous, and you'll sort of walk out of your bedroom thinking you look rather nice to go to something, and you'll get the
reality.
The best one is, oh my God, what the hell are you wearing? And they're just like crushed, totally crushed. And you sort of,
if only they knew the damage.
Yeah, exactly, the emotional toll. And then I sort of blub all the way to London. But yes, they can be quite brilliantly harsh about you, which I think is probably good as well. So
I noticed now, you were asked to come in initially to finish off, talking on Tatler to write about shooting, but obviously now you write about many different things, don't you, which is wonderful.
So yes, it started with just writing about shooting, and then that grew to writing about luxury and luxury brands. So it started to cover beautiful hotels. So it basically expanded from the shooting. So the shooting started with the shooting, and then it was, what do you wear? Where do you go? And if you go there, where can you stay? And then it was, where are the most beautiful, grouse moors you can book, or where can you go in Spain? And then what hotels can you stay in? And then it spread and spread and spread to everything. I mean, from beautiful art to jewellery to houses to, it's amazing.
Do you think your days spent... because you were on the books at Storm, weren't you?
I was, a very long time ago.
You were on the books at Storm. That's all we need to know, and that's like the real deal. I mean, I know I have a faint understanding of Storm and the people involved, and I mean,
I was a terrible model. By the way,
that is the real deal.
I was not a great model, I have to say.
You were on the books at Storm.
Yeah.
So with that, and
when I was like 15 or something, a very long time.
You were on the books at Storm. Yeah. Has that? And I think it's probably an obvious answer to this question, but has that sort of been a help in what you do now, in understanding, dealing with people within the industry, having that sort of insight? Was it helpful, or was it just something totally different that was just another aspect of your life that came on?
I suppose, look, everything that you do when you're young leads to being helpful to stuff that you do when you're older. I mean, did it make me very sort of independent and able to connect to people? Yes, it probably did. I mean, I wasn't a particularly great model because I didn't really ever think that I should be one, and I was never quite tall enough. In those days, you really had to be sort of 5'11" and very sort of willowy and fabulous. And
now, I'd imagine that was a slightly catty environment sometimes.
Do you know,
With no detail,
I know this is really boring. I know I should have some fabulous story about how somebody sort of, threw a dart at you. I don't know, but genuinely, again, and I don't know whether that's just me and whether I just swerve trouble.
This is what I'm being led to think.
Do I just swerve trouble?
You are.
Or no, I mean, I honestly, but also the other thing people don't understand, actually modelling is an incredibly lonely job.
Yes.
Because you are on your own all the time. And you have your booker. I mean, I had my booker. Your booker tells you what's happening in your day. In those days, it might have changed now, it's probably all online and frightfully organised. But in those days, you rang in and you were told what castings you'd have throughout the day, or if you needed to travel, or where you were going, and blah, blah, blah. And you just went and did it, and you were on your own. I mean, it was only when you arrived at a destination to shoot something that then there would be a team that you'd never met before.
But that's a big deal for a 15-year-old, isn't it? Traveling.
Oh, well, you don't travel on your own when you're 15.
No, but I mean that.
Yeah, but even as a 18-year-old, when I did travel on my own, yeah. It is actually. And, I have a daughter. Would I want her to do that? Probably no.
Interesting.
Do you know what? Probably no. I wouldn't. I mean, she's perfectly capable.
Yes.
And she would be fine, but I'd be quite worried for her. And also, actually, when I look back, my mother must have been amazed, or maybe they were just super chilled parents, because there were no mobile phones. I mean, at least now, if my daughter went off on a trip, I know what I'd be like. Sort of, I'd be WhatsApping her the whole time. Where are you? Please don't get too drunk. Please don't do this. Are you home? It'd be really annoying. And of course, our parents couldn't do that.
No.
I mean, they just had to let you go, and then you'd sort of telephoned if you could, and you just sort of turned up like a bad penny again, sort of a week later, having said, And I mean, I don't wish, but I genuinely don't have any sort of really bad sort of stories. I was lucky, and I didn't do it for that long, to be honest. I quite wanted to do other things as well. I mean, it was great fun, and it was an amazing opportunity, and it was really interesting for a while for me.
Yes.
And I mean, but I wanted to do more. I didn't love being in front of the camera.
No.
I didn't really love that. It might have looked like I did, but I didn't really. I actually was more interested in all the stuff going on in the background.
Yes.
The photography, that was all. I found that all quite gripping.
Well, I know with Benita, with her photography, she's never in front of the camera. Only ever
Yeah, and you see, really annoyingly, I now have a job which is quite sort of client facing, and so I do find myself doing things that I think, oh God, really? Can't someone else do that bit? Can't their photo go in instead of mine? But it's part of what I do. And,
it's wonderful because I know it seems sort of very fitting and obvious to say this, but you do have a wonderful aura, a wonderful way about you, and I think it's fabulous. Well, maybe you're just incredibly PC, but you say you haven't got any sort of stories, and I'm not digging for any hideous stories.
And I mean, if I did, I think
No.
I would go.
No, and I'm not. We're not looking for that.
But I mean, I'm sure if I really went away and thought about it, I could rustle up a pervert for you. But I mean,
Sadly, I think we can all do that.
But I can't, off the top of my head. I mean, look, if I'd done it for sort of 20 years, I'm sure I would have come across somebody who was sort of, weird or odd or
well, I was going to make the point, carrying on from that comment, that I wondered actually, as we are, sort of creations, from our background, and we're sort of formed as, in our sort of earlier years. And I know when we spoke before, I remember you muttering something along the lines of your father, Richard Purdey, saying to you that, I've got the wording wrong here, but it was along the lines of, try everything, be interested in people, get out there. And actually that really did resonate with me. One, selfishly, because I thought it was a beautiful thing to mention on this podcast, the pursuit of excellence, and how one sort of builds. But it actually touched me because I thought, what a fabulous piece of advice to actually see the good, not to put yourself in a nasty position. I mean, obviously you've got to draw the line somewhere, but I thought, how wonderful, actually, I'm going to be blunt, for someone of his stature, background, sort of someone who's now running, one of the biggest.
That's who he is.
Yeah, and I thought that was really, really special, really lovely.
And it's amazing. And I think, he was, as I told you earlier, is very anti-nepotism. And, we were taught as children that manners were everything, that we were to talk to everybody, that everybody has a story, everybody's interesting, and we really did that and really embraced it. I mean, obviously when we were teenagers, I'm sure we were massive pains in the arse, and he probably wanted to kill us half the time, but he didn't. He was quite cool, actually. He was quite scary in some ways, but he was he was strict, but he was strict about important things.
Yes.
He was strict about important things, and that was good. And it, as I said to you, total the opposite of nepotism. So if you said to my dad, oh, can I have a week's work experience at Purdey or whatever, he'd say absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not.
See, that's really...
And then you'd go, oh, but why? And he'd go, because somebody else needs that opportunity much more than you do, which is absolutely correct, and completely bugger off and go and do something else. Find your own sodding job. And that's exactly what he was like, or is like.
Yeah.
And, at the time, I don't even think we were that cross, because we just sort of said, oh, okay, and then went and asked somebody else, or went and got another job. And I think that I do believe, and it probably is from him, that if you come from a reasonably privileged, background, that you should, you have a sort of a duty to give something back if you can.
Yes.
And you, it's all well and good to be incredibly privileged, but, I mean, that is your normality.
Yes.
But if you don't do anything good with that, if you don't, we see it all the time, with kids going off the rails.
Interesting. Do you feel that's really interesting? And I know, large proportion of people look at privileged people and think, oh, they've got everything, they're sorted, got the money, life's easy. And you say, and I think that's a wonderful comment you say about...
Comes with a responsibility.
But I'd almost say, in defence of you, do you feel one has to, because you come from a privilege, or do you not think it's just generic?
No.
It's good for everybody to try and give
I think it's good for
something.
I think it's good for everybody.
I don't feel there should be a news strand drawn it because you've got X, you have to give.
Exactly. I think it's great for everybody. I mean, and something that is really true, for everybody I'm talking about now, is that if you help somebody else in any small way, it feels good to help other people. It feels good to give stuff back. Or to, just random acts. I'm quite into random acts
Would
of
you
kindness.
believe in karma? Energy, things, putting things in, taking,
definitely.
not necessarily putting it into takeout, but that by putting in something.
Absolutely.
See, I do.
No, I massively do. And I have to say, on the energy front, I really like to work with people who have great energy and bring something really positive to the table.
Yes.
And I'm really fortunate, because I'm old, I can slightly pick and choose. Slightly pick and choose now. Obviously, when you're young, you can't, and so you might have a really scary boss who sort of brings horrendous energy into the office every day, and that's just hideous. I'm really not into that at all. I mean, negative energy, I'm gone. I just don't need it. I don't want it in my life. And it's not to say that then you have to be psychotically, relentlessly positive, but I think if you fundamentally look at the world and try to look at the world in a positive light, then more positive things come of that.
It seems to be the case,
and I think it is the case, and I think that does work. I think if you are generally quite positive, when you come up against challenging situations, which everybody does, you are not protected from, no one is protected from challenging things in their life. But I think if you are a generally quite positive person, you can overcome those challenging times more easily than I think if you are really, I mean, we all have friends who, maybe struggle a bit, and I think a lot of negativity just tends to kind of attract more negativity. But it's also probably quite hard if you are quite a negative person to suddenly flick the lights on.
And I think there's a line between the two. There's a negative person, who's maybe not particularly kind, not particularly decent, for want of a better term, and then there's a decent person who's struggling.
Yeah, exactly. And those two are two totally different things.
Lovely people that every now and again need a hand.
No,
we all do.
Absolutely. Done. Everybody in life has done at some point needed someone to, give them a hand, cheer them on, shall we say?
Yes,
cheering
indeed.
On. And I like cheering people on.
I think it is. It's a lovely thing, actually. It creates a wonderful sense of well-being and happiness and calmness, and it does. I totally agree. For some unknown reason, I don't know what it is. When you push things out there, in itself, it's great to give, to be kind, but by default, sometimes it also comes back round and maybe gives you something nice as well.
Exactly. And I mean, sometimes and again, this happens to everyone. Sometimes you're just sort of blown away and so surprised. Some sort of amazing thing will come out of the blue.
That's all right. We wanted to invite you. We wanted you here. You're more than welcome.
You don't have to suck up now you're here. I'll try not to.
So at what point, at what age, and let's be blunt, you're Annika Purdey, you're from the Purdey family, you're not here to talk about guns, I know that. But at what age did you sort of realise, what your family was, what they do, what they've done, and I mean, let's be blunt. I mean, it is, if you think of sort of the highest quality, luxury, handmade, precision, all those sort of terminologies, and there are very good gun makers out there, but Purdey is top of the pile, right? So at what point did you go, blimey, I'm a Purdey?
Do you know,
look at this amazing family I'm surrounded by.
No, but this is so weird, because when it's your family, of course, and it's your, it's your family, it's your life and your normality, that's the thing, you don't really notice. Do you know, I think possibly actually, we had a really normal childhood in Sussex, with dogs, and it was just lovely and normal, and nothing sort of too bizarre happened, or nothing particularly exciting happened.
Gun chat.
I mean, there was a bit of gun chat, but actually, there was and there wasn't as well. I mean, when I was very young, my father was chairman of another company, and so there was and there wasn't, and we just had this very normal childhood. But I do remember going to Purdey when I was quite young. And
when you say going to Purdey, you mean going to...
No, just sort of going into the shop to see my dad, London, and, I'd pop in and what have you, and he'd go out for lunch, or just go and say hi. And I always remember, and I still get this feeling, by the way, of walking in, and it is a really special...
Do you feel proud?
Place. Yeah, I do. I do.
I think you should.
I do feel really proud. I feel incredibly lucky and incredibly grateful. I really do, and it's amazing. And when I think probably when I really noticed was at about, I don't know, sort of 10, 11, say, that I would go and play at a friend's house, and the dad would suddenly go, "Hello, are you Annika?" And you'd sort of say, "Yes, hello." And he'd say, "I'll tell you something. I've got something to show you. Come with me." And you'd be sort of dragged to this gun cupboard where you'd be shown, his various guns. And so that started happening. And that's, I think, when I would realise. And of course, when you're 10, 11, you can be less interested. You want to be swimming in the pool, playing with the dogs, playing tennis, riding ponies. You don't want to be kind of looking, especially then you instantly feel you have to go, "Gosh, yes, isn't that marvellous? Isn't that amazing? It's beautiful."
I think that's quite unfair of whoever that was pulling a 10-year-old.
But it was, but then you sort of got slightly used to it. But I did, and it still happens, I'll get people who are complete shooting nuts.
I'm glad you said that, because I've got some guns out the back I want you to have a look at when we're finished.
We'll go and have a little look afterwards. And I'm
Cure
so
for
used.
insomnia.
I'm so used to it now. But they. I don't know. I've lost my train of thought now. What were we saying?
So you're talking about being dragged and talking about guns and being asked about.
Yeah, but now what happens is, which is quite embarrassing, that I'll be somewhere and there'll be some. You're going to tell me off for saying man, but I'm afraid it usually is a man.
I just get told off for saying men, so I try and share the love.
But there'll be some sort of, terribly fabulous man who is a shooting nut, who that is his life, and it hasn't happened very often, but it has happened to me, where someone will come up to me and say, "Do you see this? Do you see?" And I'm thinking,
gun.
Oh my goodness, please don't ask me anything too frightening and technical, because I'm going to look quite stupid. So I mean, and as is the life, there are people who will know lots more about it. I mean, there's a man at Purdey who's our historian and archivist, who is amazing, a guy called Nick Carlo, such a lovely man, and he knows way more about my family than I do. Yes. He seriously does.
Yes.
And he's amazing. And he sends me sometimes, just sort of out of the blue, he'll send me a photo that he's found down in the sort of underbelly of Purdey. He will find an amazing box or something that has photos of, he sent me one the other day of Granny and Grandpa on their wedding day. And it was a photo I'd never seen.
Wow.
How amazing is that?
Wow.
I know, and it was so lovely.
You'd never seen it before?
No, I'd never seen it. And yeah, he is gripping, I have to say. And quite shaming at the same time, because
there is a wealth of history there, isn't there? That
but it is that thing when it's your family.
You're the here and now.
You're the here and now.
Going right back
and you talk
Joseph
about
Manton,
and you talk about sort of normal family stuff at home, like any other family, like who's taken the bins out, and has somebody walked the dog, has someone done that, and so that it's weird that other people know so much more about it than I do a lot of the time, which is, I should probably, that's what I should have done in lockdown.
Well, no, you've got him. You can just ring him and say, "Hey, what happened in 1820?
He can never leave. He can never leave.
No.
He's got to be on a sort of, 40,
he needs to start documenting.
40-year contract or something. Exactly. But, yeah, so no, I always, did I talk, it wasn't really talked about that much. It was probably more when I got to be being a sort of older teenager that then you would get, had a bit of street cred, I suppose.
Yes.
So I'd sort of be invited away for the weekend or something, and I don't know. I mean, I never really let it. It sort of slightly wafted over me.
Well, and I mean, did you have an interest in shooting? Just to touch on that really briefly. From a young age, or you got dragged along whether you liked it or not?
Yes, I mean, we did go out, and we did. Yes, I did. I mean, I wasn't sort of obsessed by it in any way. It was just part of what we did and part of what we enjoyed and what we liked. I mean, when I was younger, funnily enough, where I grew up in Sussex, my sister and I were the only girls. Every other family seemed to have just boys, and so we had this kind of gang of friends. So our parents were friends, and then we became friends, and we went to prep school. We went to nursery and prep school together, and the lads were, when I look back, we were quite feral in some ways. I mean, we spent a lot of time outside, sort of tearing around on gators and motorbikes and, I don't know. I mean, we were probably a nightmare. But we were so lucky because we could do this across everybody's farm or across everybody. So we didn't go make a nuisance of ourselves in a public place.
And if you weren't privileged enough to live on a farm or near a farm, you go and run on someone's farm anyway.
And
back
so
then,
we were, exactly. So we were, really lucky. But and some of the boys had lots of boys' toys, so we'd all tear around on these sort of mini motorbikes and gators, and oh god, I mean, we were mad. And the boys were obsessed with bunny bashing, and so a big thing, we'd sort of hang out all day together, kind of like playing tennis by the pool, what have you, and then it would come to the evening and the boys would be like, right, off we go, and they'd take it so seriously. And so I mean, it was fun, it was, and it all led to, I suppose, more formal sort of shoots, more grown-up shoots as I got older. But I mean, it started...
But a great leveler at an early age, isn't it?
Yeah.
Being out, boys and girls.
Yeah, boys and girls all having...
And
we did that with our own kids, as it started with, kind of doing little clay rabbits, sort of... Are they those bunnies? Do you remember those? I think they are, they're bunnies. Yeah, exactly that you just sort of put on a fence. And balloons. If it was a birthday or something, that was always the big treat. The balloons would go up on a fence and you could shoot them. I mean, exactly. Nothing flash in my house. I mean,
let's get some balloons for that press day.
Yes, no, don't do that. It was kind of... It was kind of normal. And actually, do you know what? I think, obviously, there'll sometimes be people who will have a perception of you before they meet you. And I mean, we all do that. We think, oh, it's so-and-so. Gosh, maybe they're a bit scary, or maybe they're a bit frightening or mean or what have you. But I hope most people don't have a preconceived sort of idea of what I might be like. And I think
they'd probably largely be wrong if they did. I honestly,
But what I hope is that once they met me, then they would be super comfortable, and I really I would hate to think that anybody would be would think, oh God, we've got Annika Purdey. I mean, there's probably plenty of my friends that think, oh God, we've got her coming for dinner. But I hope that they would. That they find me okay.
Well, this is the vibe I get, and this is what I love about you, is that bluntly, as we've discussed, you came from a rather nice background. There were potentially simple opportunities there to move forward. However, father clearly wouldn't allow that, and you haven't fought against that. You've gone off and carved your path. Storm, writing. Yes, I know, and I hate this word, ambassador. Obviously, you play a part with Purdey. I mean, that's a given. That's an obvious thing, and you do it very well.
Well, I've actually just joined the board of Purdey.
Have you really? That's incredible.
I know, which is
how wonderful! Congratulations,
amazing.
Well done.
Thank you so much.
That's brilliant. And I tell you what, this is going to sound crap, but I'm really pleased as I assume at least one lady on the board.
There is.
Just for girl power.
There is.
Because Hownhall is very much girl power.
Yeah, there is now one lady on the board.
Do you turn up in big coats and hats and big sunglasses and sort of sweep in? Yeah.
No, well, unfortunately, we haven't actually been able to meet each other yet because of COVID. So we've got that to come. So I mean, I'll ring you up and pick your brains about what to wear.
Please.
I think sort of sunglasses, a big coat.
Ask Benita.
Yeah, exactly. No, so that was, that was a huge honour, and is a huge honour, and it was a wonderful surprise. I didn't expect it.
Well, I mean, coming from, again, I've said this a couple of times already. Your father was clearly, clearly a very clever man, but clearly a very balanced, a very level person.
Very.
And so actually, to then be asked to take that position, I would say, well, it's a wonderful thing in itself, but I would imagine resonates especially for you based on how he operates. Yeah,
and he was absolutely, and he was thrilled, which meant a lot to me. He was really thrilled, and so yeah, it's wonderful, and I hope that I can bring. As you said, I haven't worked in that industry. I've been an ambassador for Purdey for about 5 years, but and it's and I write about shooting and I write about luxury and what have you. So it all melds very well together. But I am coming in, from I would say more of a fashion background and writing. And
have you ever had any input or influence on the Purdey clothing range, albeit just for the lady stuff, or generally?
Well, not. A little bit maybe, not so much. In the fact that our chief designer, Corin, who again probably thinks I'm a lunatic, if I see stuff that if I see stuff that I really, she's so nice. Oh my gosh, she's amazing. I have to say, if I see stuff I really like, so when it's the shows and what have you, I have quite a few friends also who are designers who are amazing, and I'm really genuinely fascinated by that whole. The creativity of sort of conception of the idea of a piece of clothing, to then seeing it in the shop. It is an amazing process. When you think about it, this is somebody's idea that they then draw up and what have you. And then it's a whole process and choosing the fabrics and choosing I'm so in love with that. I've always loved clothes.
You are creative, aren't you? You love creating.
Yeah, God, if I could have been a designer, that would have been the dream. Literally, that's probably what I should have done.
Couldn't you do a special now? You're on the board. Right, guys, I'm now going to do.
So what I do is I send Corin things that I really like.
Yeah.
And there's an amazing team at Purdey who are and I do say I really like this jacket, or I really like the cut of this, or I really like the sleeve of this, or the cuff of this, or I really like this fabric or this lining. I did ring Corin up about, I think 2 years ago or something, and said, do you know what I really would like? And we don't do them, is culottes.
Wow, do you know what? Culottes. I was just about to say that. And Benita did exactly the same with someone else and moaned at the fact that they're not... Nobody made them for shooting.
Yeah. Well, actually, there are a few people who do, but they're quite hard to find, and we didn't.
Yeah.
And it was extraordinary that we didn't, and they're actually fabulous. They're also so easy for Benita. I can imagine they're brilliant, because if you're actually having to carry stuff and what have you, they're so. You can't really wear a skirt.
No.
It's not the dream, really, is it?
No.
And I've always worn breeks.
Yes.
But they're not the most flattering, and I have to say I think culottes can look incredibly
they're really classy,
elegant.
Yeah, they're very much.
And you get the sort of combo of the skirt and whatever, and they're fantastic. And so we got culottes, which was so good.
Yeah.
There are a few things that I definitely would love to see in future collections, but don't worry,
Well, you're on the board now.
I think you know me well enough to know that I will be annoying and keep going, can we have that? Can we have that? I'm very obsessed by good cashmere.
Yes.
And we do have some lovely cashmere.
Did Purdey still get cashmere still made in Scotland?
Yeah. And we've got some amazing tweeds and the sort of new ones that are coming in and things. So I love that side of it. Really love it. And I would, at some point, who knows what the future holds. But I'm doing all my other things as well, which is so great.
So, what is it then, I can see, obviously, just skipping back the young age, Richard's influence and advice and, almost steering. No, you're not going to have the work experience in our shop. Keeping you sane, keeping you sound, keeping you real, for want of a better term.
Absolutely.
What then? was that the catalyst then for you, and the way you've sort of pushed forward with different things and your drive and your what is it you think that's made you who you are and got you to where you are today, rather than fighting against and going, no, I just want an easy life because I possibly could have. What is it in you that's?
I think.
What is that that invisible power that drives you?
Invisible power. Gosh, I don't know if there is an invisible power, but I'm really, as I said earlier, I'm really curious, and I never want to lose that, really. And I'm really interested in new things all the time. Every day something comes up where I go, God, that's cool, that's amazing. Or someone will ring me up or send me an email and go, what do you think of that? And obviously sometimes I'll go, no, I don't think that's particularly interesting, or what have you. But a lot of the time, I just get, maybe also I think I get a bit overexcited about things.
There's nothing wrong with overexcitement.
I like feeling excited about new things and interesting things, and I think there's so much more to discover all the time. I can't see that ever ending. I think I'm going to be some sort of wizened old crone that's still sort of, hopefully someone will club me over the head by then. I never want to stop learning. I think that's another thing. So I keep going. And I wasn't telling you this story about. So when I started at Tatler, I started as just a writer, and I would send my pieces in and what have you, and always cross my fingers that they wouldn't get too edited down. And I always overwrote. Probably why I'm doing a podcast, because just too much to come out, too much excitement. And then I was away staying at this lovely hotel in Hampshire called Limewood, which I was reviewing for the Good Spa Guide. And I had taken a girlfriend with me. And I said to her, you can come with me and we'll have a lovely time. I said, I'm going to have to do, for me it's work, so you just lie still in the spa and have a nice time, and I have to go and test various things out.
Sounds like a challenge.
Horrid.
A challenge. Annika.
Horrid part of my job. Yeah. And it was, everything was divine, and I sort of had I did everything, tried all these different things that were in the spa, so that I could tell other people how great it was. Anyway, halfway, I'd been writing by this time for about a year, maybe a year and a half. And I saw, there wasn't very good reception when I was walking between somewhere, and I saw this thing from Richard Dennon. And I just, instead of thinking, oh, maybe he wants me to ask another question, or I don't know. I mean, because normally it would be Sasha or somebody, or Rebecca, that I would speak to. So I don't think he even knew where I was, actually.
Sure.
And there'd be no reason for him to know. And I thought, and then the next thing that came into my head was, oh my God, what have I done wrong? Have we done something awful?
We always immediately think negative.
And then I just thought, God, I just haven't grown up.
That's because we work all the time.
I haven't grown up from school, I mean, what the hell's wrong with me? I mean, of course he's not going to the room. And then, because I was then sort of stuck talking to somebody else, so I couldn't really look at it properly. And I thought, oh God, has my girlfriend gone and, I don't know, sort of drunk a whole bottle of rosé and doing backflips into the pool or something?
Copying you again.
Exactly. And really testing it to the limit. And that's what I kind of thought. I thought, God, have we done something completely ghastly and awful? And anyway, then when I read it, it was just such an amazing email that I couldn't actually believe, that just asking me to become a contributing editor. And that's when it really took off. And I was so touched. I actually think I cried. I think I did. I was so, because for me, you might think that, I don't know, that I would, it just meant so much because it was about something that I started doing that I wasn't I probably inside felt I wasn't that qualified to do, and that I didn't know whether I would like it or whether they would like what I did. And so when that happened, it was, I mean, I was properly happy, and really, really touched. And yeah, and again, it's that classic thing, isn't it? It just made you strive to do more, to do better, to write about even more interesting things, to find more things to talk about.
Well, this
and
is
to
why
share.
I think it's totally valid. I know it's be kind to people. We're all brought up to be kind, or now it's the hashtag, kindness, mindfulness, all that jazz, and it's valid. But it actually is a really special thing to give, credit where credit's due, to give someone a hand to. I'm not saying you should go out and just be nice to. Well, you do not be horrible, but you know what I mean. Just where something sort of.
No, it feels really good.
It's validated.
And I think at whatever stage of life you are, whether you're in your 20s in your first job, or whether you're old like me, probably hope in your last job, it always really means something.
Well, I can't help but think that. Dad aside, who is clearly an oracle and a very wonderful person.
He is.
That whether you liked it or not, and by others actually, you almost had the guns sort of forced down your throat. Like you say, going to friends' houses. Oh, I must show you this, or going out somewhere. Oh, it must. And I actually think it's fabulous that. You have actually sort of created this separate path, and you haven't become frustrated, and you haven't, for fuck's sake, someone else wants to know about a gun again, No, you're actually charming, you're polite, and I think even if you were bored.
But I love that side of it too, and it is really special, and it's fascinating, and there are so many people who love it, who love the brand. I mean, it's a privilege. It's very much a privilege.
Well, my overview is that. Before I say my overview, it
oh God, here we go.
For the, are you ready?
Yes, exactly. Okay, slightly wriggle in the chair. Okay, what's he going to say?
No, I was going to say on a spiritual level, it's funny having done this podcast. The people, and it sounds obvious because they've been here and they're guests, but we've had no issue, no struggle. We speak to, we think of people. And we contact them, and some we, like yourself, we know each other, and others are complete strangers. And they sort of, in a roundabout way, just say yes, which is quite special because,
Yeah, but do you think that's because of you?
Possibly, partly, maybe.
I think it's probably definitely
partly,
because
maybe,
of you.
But I think there's a connection.
I mean, look, if someone else might have asked me, and I might have said no.
Well, that's true.
I'm not generally, as I said to you earlier, because I'm used to interviewing other people.
Yes.
So I'm not generally that comfortable talking about myself. So I'm probably incredibly dull. But no, of course it's you. But
we can put music over the top of it.
Exactly, right. Dob me out. But of course it's you. This is your podcast, and it's great. And I heard it because you went and did it, and you put it out there, and I saw it, and then I got in touch with you about, that's how things work. And that's definitely how my life works, is that I see things I like, that people who do something amazing, that impresses me, and I will reach out to them and say, wow, that's amazing, which is exactly what I did with you. I said, it's how
absolutely
wonderful.
And that's why we feel blessed, because we have had, like yourself, amazing people who, quite frankly, bluntly, have probably got better things to do, but we've created this connection. And that sort of touches on, what you've said about being kind and helping. I think there is this natural flow, isn't there? This wonder that if you push out there, push for something, don't judge a book by its cover. I know a lot of people do.
You've got to step outside your comfort zone. So this is why I'm doing this.
There's a huge amount of surprises. I mean, yes, I mean, we there's a couple of people who are deemed as particularly tough, and they are, but they're not. They're
who you've had on.
Yeah,
and then they weren't.
No, they're totally cool. But it's even the fact that they've gone, yes, we will. And you think, I was expecting a no. That's a real nice surprise.
Well, as I said to you, when we said we'd have a phone call before this,
we did a half podcast. On the phone.
Exactly. I know you're going to bloody persuade me, aren't you? And it wasn't going to take much. Let's face it.
2 cases of rosé out there. We haven't even opened them yet.
A bit early for that. But no, I like stepping outside of my comfort zone, and I had rather a big birthday a year ago, and I made myself a promise that I would do more stuff that took me outside of my comfort zone. I think it's really easy to get stuck doing what you're comfortable with, what you're good at. And of course, that's completely normal to want to stay in a zone.
Yes.
But I just promised myself I would, I mean, I'm not going to do anything sort of odd, like sort of throw myself out of a plane or something like that, because that would properly terrify me. But I want to do things that I haven't done before, and that might have, that test me a little bit, that
push the boundaries.
that don't, that make me feel a little bit uncomfortable. Can I do this? Am I able to do this? And I think that's great, because at the end of the day, we're not here forever, and we're here for quite a short time. And so try and do stuff that's amazing, that's brilliant, and say yes to stuff, to opportunity. I mean, I always say to the camera, I'm like a broken record. My kids, say yes to opportunities. Just say yes to stuff. And if you get, it's very natural to think, oh gosh, I don't think I can do that. Will I be able to do that? I don't know. But you'll never know unless you give it a go.
Yeah.
And there isn't one successful person out there that hasn't failed. In fact, some of my most successful friends have had some spectacular screw-ups.
What was it, Winston Churchill, who said something, I'm going to get this completely wrong, but something along the lines of success is measured by the energy that you input into something after you failed, and how you consistently put energy in.
Because,
success is there's no real sort of point of success.
Because
it's an
actually
ongoing...
resilience is about everyone is going to fail at something at some point, in some way. Yeah. And resilient people are the people who, what do they do with that? Do they go, oh my God, I'm never going to do that again. I was so awful at it. It was terrible, whatever. Or do they, which again is a very natural human reaction when you fail at something, or something doesn't work out for you. But if you, if you can step up and think, oh God, that was awful. I was so rubbish at that, or that really didn't work. But actually, can we turn it into an opportunity? How could I do something slightly differently that might work? And I think it's just habit. I don't know whether that's inbuilt in some people more than others.
Possibly.
that thing of dusting yourself off and carrying on.
Yeah, I mean, that is the test.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Dusting yourself off and carrying on and keeping going when you think, when you haven't had, when something hasn't been great. And I think everyone does that, and lots of people are really good at that.
I think if you can have in mind that there's no guarantees, but it's a law of averages, and you've got to keep trying. You have to. If you're happy to stand still and do nothing, then fine, great.
Yeah, and I'm sure maybe some people are.
You've just
but I think keep marching forward.
Yes.
Kick on, as I say to
the
kids.
There you go, kick on. And actually, before you started that last piece, I was going to say to you, what would be your advice to someone wanting to try this, that and the other, but I think you've pretty much just answered that question.
Ask people. Don't be afraid of asking people. It's such... You can get so many amazing, wonderful things. And the worst that you can ever hear is, no, I'm so sorry, I can't help you. But quite often, if I'm asked things...
You want to help.
And even if I personally can't help them, or I don't know the answer, I like to think, I hope it doesn't sound cocky, I hope that I might know somebody that could help you. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I might say to that person, God, I'm so sorry, I haven't got a clue. But I know a bloke called Simon who lives in West Sussex.
Yes.
And he just might know.
Yes.
And then you're the kind of person that I'd be like, could you just talk to this chap for a sec? He wants to know about this. Do you know? And if you didn't know, you might go, I don't really have a clue, but I'm going to ask Ben. You know what I mean? And that's how, but eventually that person's going to get their answer.
When it's shooting, I usually have an Ask Dylan.
Oh my God. Can I just say, massive shout out to Dylan. When I first started writing about shooting, and I would ring, I hope you won't mind me saying this, I would quite often ring Dylan and go, right, help. He knows everything. I don't think there's ever been a time, he is like my oracle, ever been a time that I've sent him a question or messaged him a question about, where's this grouse moor, who owns this, or can you go here? Or he literally, he's like an encyclopedia. He knows everything and everyone, and he is so helpful. When I was telling you about my car piece, that piece could never ever have come into fruition without Dylan. I'll tell you why. Because I had the idea. I said to Dylan, do you think this would be fun? Do you think people would like to read about this? And he said, yeah, it's great. He went, right, so you're going to need car people, aren't you? So I said, yeah. And he went, no, Annie? And I went, nope. And he went, right, I do. I promise you, within one day, I had, these sort of CEOs of sort of, that's the car I want actually. So you could say, but the one I really want. So I had sort of CEOs of, sort of
different brands,
different very luxury car brands, literally dropping into, it's just, hi Annika, it's James or whatever. So what car do you want for this piece? Where do you want it delivered? Yeah. I mean, it was like.
But you see, this is
amazing.
The podcast is about you today, not Dylan. But I mean, I like Dylan very much. We've known each other a few years. I haven't known him a long, long time. But I did reach out to him.
But that's what I mean about reaching out.
No,
to
that's
people,
right. We were neighbours in Surrey, and the initial meet was me reaching and him, reciprocating, and he's become a great friend. Yeah. And we have good fun and laughs. And yes, he is.
That's the thing,
if you take bluntly, if you take clay shooting and top end events. Corporates, and you throw them in a pot and mix them together, it ends up turning into an RB in my mind. So I think for that he absolutely he hit the top. But this is not about Dylan, it's about you.
Okay, you want to know my car? Okay, so if money was no object from all these cars I've tried, in fact it's the one I've tried the most recently, and I completely fell in love with it, which is the Aston Martin DBX.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, I mean, there are lots of reasons why. I mean, it just drove so beautifully, it was amazing. I took it off-road, admittedly not in biblical rains, in deep mud like I did to the poor Urus, but it wasn't too big. I mean, the Bentley was just unbelievable, divine. It was like driving around in your sort of drawing room. It was heaven. But it's vast. And so realistically, for my life, you're not really going to take it to sort of Waitrose. Well, I mean, people do. People do. And I mean, of course, that's amazing if you can. But I think for me, I would adore one, of course, but I would probably only drive it to sort of smart things.
Weekend car.
But quite, exactly. But the DVX was so cool. I mean, it was so cool because it wasn't too big. It made that really great noise, Aston Martin noise. It handled brilliantly. It was really nice inside. It was. I hope they won't get cross if I said that I felt that it was. I'm a woman, and not that it's a feminine car. I mean, it's really looks very sexy as well.
So next time you come here and you come down the A3,
if you hear me coming,
go through the tunnel at Hindhead, and just switch it into
really
sport mode.
Up. Oh my god, the Lamborghini had this button, of sport mode button. I think there are lots of them do, and I'm not. In fact, I am really bad at tech. Really, really properly bad. And
but you've got Tim.
I do, and children as well. But I am. I mean, just embarrassingly crap at that. And anyway, so when it comes to all these amazing cars getting delivered, and usually what happens is some sort of lorry arrives on the drive and a car is sort of popped down, and then the man goes by. You're left with this sort of £250,000 car going, right. Actually, to be fair, they're normally quite kind and do show you roughly how it's done.
Where's the key? Where's the key go?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, anyway, but I'm fine once I'm in and I'm behind the wheel, but just don't touch anything. I mean, I think my poor kids, because of course then it's like, oh my God, cool, will you come pick me up from school in it? And then they get in it and they go, oh, it's got an awesome stereo. And I'm like, don't touch anything. All of a sudden,
mum looks good now. Mum looks really, really sharp,
exactly.
Really cool.
But it had this, the sport button. And when we were driving up to this shoot, we're on the motorway, and Tim said, can I test it? And I was like, yeah, okay, fine, like this. And honestly, it's like something from a movie. It goes from a pretty great raw anyway to this but so
Sorry,
loud.
I just visualised then you and Tim swapping seats whilst you were driving. In a movie.
I mean, it was just like, it was so insane that then when we got into traffic, there were men in sort of trucks next to us, or lorries, who were winding down their windows and going, Can you do that again? Can you do that again?
Really?
Yeah, and so we sort of spent quite a long time sort of cheering up people by going raw. It's very terrible.
Still sharing the love.
Yeah,
there's just
sharing
no end
the love.
to
I know,
your
probably
wonder,
absolutely
is there?
terrible for the environment. So I mean, no, terrible. But it was very fun to have it for a weekend. So yes, but I think if I really
Just pop the name in there again. Just which car was it you're after?
I think they know.
Sorry, which I've forgotten. Which one was it?
It might be the Aston Martin DBX.
Thank you. Just for clarity.
Utterly
there.
divine.
That's,
But
wonderful.
there are many other beautiful brands of cars, Simon. Exactly. And I haven't decided, actually. You can help me if you want. I haven't decided what I'm going to review this year.
Ooh,
So
how exciting.
I know. So I really, it's not going to be ready, I don't think. I really want to do the electric Range Rover when that comes out, but it's not out yet.
No.
I mean there'll be tweaks on some. There'll be new stuff.
Yes.
That's I haven't done the Rolls Royce yet.
Yeah, but they're just down the road.
Are they?
Literally, yeah. Yeah, there are
Maybe
neighbours.
I'll slip
I'll
in
do a
after
deal and
this.
phone them up for
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
I'll get it sorted. Leave it to me, yeah?
Exactly. I don't know. I think I might be. I think if I turned up to a shoot in a Rolls Royce, that's when I might be shot. Actually, at some point. But no, they look terribly cool, I have to say.
Yeah.
But again, huge. They look really.
I didn't realise they actually
big.
do. I think I'm right in saying, and I know nothing about it, I think they actually do bespoke cars as well. As in they almost made to order.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Which
they
I
do.
didn't realise.
Actually, no, they do.
I just saw. I
No,
can't remember
they
where I
do.
saw.
It
There
was
were some photos
yeah,
on
no,
social.
Yeah.
And it's a Rolls Royce, but it's
Yes,
it's not.
I saw that.
Oh,
It was
why
in
not?
it was in the paper last week, and you can literally order anything you want,
mean-
and it looks unbelievable.
Yeah, it's like the Purdey
Yeah.
of cars. You know, you
No,
can
but
order
that's
it, have
amazing.
it built, isn't it? Just
Yeah, incredible. I mean, the whole bespoke thing is great, and yeah, we're doing that now actually with the clothing and stuff. So you have to come in, and
I'm not surprised.
you're going to have to come in.
New
and,
influence, a breath of fresh air over it.
so
Fabulous.
yeah, there'll be lots of exciting new things. You'll have to come and.
I won't ring
come and
Dylan
see
anymore. I'm
me.
going to phone you now.
Yeah, no, he'll be furious. He'll be so angry with you. So yeah, no, I mean, all the time there's going to be. In fact, there's going to be lots of exciting things. So you've got to come and see us
Fabulous. I'd love to.
when you're in London and pop in.
That would be great. Well, I think that really beautifully and wonderfully
it?
brings us to a lovely soft conclusion, really, doesn't it? I've got to say, you know, you are a prime example of why it is really healthy to reach out and speak to people. I know we know each other, but we haven't known each other that long. And this is a great example of the wonder that can be created from, in effect, nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can't thank you enough for your time.
Well, thank
and indeed,
you.
Tim, both of you. So you both came down today,
yeah.
and that's incredibly decent.
Thank you. I've absolutely loved it,
well,
and yeah, it's my first podcast.
Brilliant.
So
You've been interviewed.
I hope I haven't ruined the sort of lucky streak for you.
Well, I think,
no,
I think you're
thank
probably
you.
one
Honestly,
of the nicest things in the frame at the moment, quite frankly.
It's been so lovely. I've really enjoyed it, and it wasn't as scary as I thought it might be.
Not scary at all.
No, it was really lovely, and thank you so much for inviting me and for having
our
me.
pleasure. You're
It's been
utterly
brilliant.
wonderful. Thank you again, and I'll see you another day. Take care. God bless.
Bye.